I still remember the exact moment my life shattered into a million pieces. It wasn't when the judge's gavel came down, sentencing me to 15 years. It wasn't even when the cold steel of handcuffs bit into my wrists for the first time. No, the moment that truly destroyed me was when I looked back at the courtroom gallery and saw my own brother, Marcus, sitting there with tears streaming down his face, nodding at the prosecutor like he was doing the right thing. My mother sat beside him, her face carved from stone, refusing to meet my eyes. My father had his arm around my wife, Sarah, who sobbed into his shoulder. They all believed I had done it. They all believed I had embezzled $3 million from our family's construction company and gambled it away. They believed I had betrayed them, stolen from them, destroyed everything our grandfather had built. But I hadn't. God help me, I hadn't done any of it. My name is Daniel Morrison, and this is the story of how I lost everything, survived hell, and discovered a truth so devastating that it made those 15 years in prison seem almost merciful in comparison. The accusations came out of nowhere on a Tuesday morning in March, 8 months before my trial. I was 32 years old, vice president of Morrison & Sons Construction, married to my high school sweetheart, and father to 2 beautiful daughters, Emma and Lily, ages 7 and 5. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and I loved every minute of it. That morning, I walked into our main office in downtown Seattle to find 2 detectives waiting in the lobby. My father, Robert Morrison, stood beside them, his face ashen. My brother Marcus lurked in the background, his expression unreadable. Daniel Morrison, one of the detectives asked, though he clearly knew who I was. Yes? You're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and money laundering. The words didn't make sense. They were English, I understood each one individually, but strung together like that, they became meaningless noise. I actually laughed, a short, confused bark of a sound. What? There must be some mistake. But there was no mistake. They'd been investigating for months, they said. Following the money trail. They had bank statements, wire transfers, documents with my signature, security footage of me accessing the company accounts at odd hours. They had me dead to rights, according to them. Dad, I turned to my father, waiting for him to tell them this was insane, that there was an explanation. But he just stood there, tears rolling down his weathered cheeks, looking at me like I was a stranger. How could you, he whispered. Your grandfather started this company with his bare hands. How could you? The next 8 months were a blur of legal meetings, mounting evidence, and the gradual dissolution of everything I held dear. Sarah filed for divorce within 2 weeks. She took the girls and moved in with my parents. My own parents. They embraced her, comforted her, told her she was doing the right thing protecting the children from a criminal father. I tried to fight the charges. I hired the best lawyer I could afford, which wasn't much once all my accounts were frozen. Every piece of evidence seemed to point to me. The signatures were perfect matches. The computer logs showed access from my credentials. The money had been transferred to offshore accounts, and then systematically withdrawn in cash from ATMs in locations I frequented. Someone had even found betting slips from various casinos with my fingerprints on them. My lawyer, a tired public defender named Janet Miller, laid it out plainly during one of our meetings at the county jail where I awaited trial. Daniel, I'm going to be honest with you. This case is airtight. The prosecution has everything. Your best bet is to take a plea deal. Show remorse. You might get it down to 8 or 10 years instead of the 30 they are threatening. But I didn't do it, I insisted for the 1000th time. Someone framed me. Someone who had access to everything, who knew exactly how to make it look like me. Who? Give me a name, give me something to investigate, and I will. But right now, you're asking a jury to believe that someone orchestrated an incredibly sophisticated frame job, for no apparent reason, while you just happen to be in all the wrong places, at the wrong times. It's not going to work. I couldn't give her a name. I couldn't imagine who would do this to me or why. My family loved me. My colleagues respected me. I had no enemies that I knew of. It made no sense. The trial was a nightmare. The prosecution painted me as a gambling addict who had spiraled out of control, stealing from his own family to feed his addiction. They brought in casino employees who testified that they'd seen me there regularly, though I'd only been to a casino maybe 5 times in my life for company events. They had transaction records, video footage that looked like me, but was always just grainy enough that I couldn't definitively prove it wasn't. My family testified against me. Not willingly, they were subpoenaed, but their testimony was damning nonetheless. My father confirmed that I had access to all the accounts. Marcus testified that he'd noticed me acting strange, stressed, secretive in the months before the money went missing. Even Sarah, crying on the stand, said I had been distant, that we'd been fighting about money. We had been fighting about money, but only because she wanted to remodel the kitchen, and I thought we should save for the girls' college funds. Normal married couple stuff. But in the context of the trial, it sounded like I was under financial pressure, desperate. I took the stand in my own defense. I told the truth, that I hadn't stolen anything, that I couldn't explain the evidence, but that I was innocent. I could see the jury's faces. They didn't believe me. Why would they? The evidence was overwhelming, and I had no alternative explanation to offer. The verdict came back in less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. My mother cried. My father sat stone-faced. Marcus put his hand on Dad's shoulder in comfort. Sarah was already gone, she'd stopped coming to the trial after her testimony. The judge sentenced me to 15 years in federal prison. As they led me away in chains, I looked back one last time. My father's eyes met mine, and I saw something there that I'd never seen before, disgust. My own father was disgusted by me. That look haunted me through every single day of the next 15 years. Federal Correctional Institution, Sheridan, Oregon became my new home. Medium security, which meant it wasn't the worst of the worst, but it was still hell. I learned quickly to keep my head down, follow the rules, and trust no one. I worked in the prison library, kept to myself, and tried not to think about my daughters growing up without me. The first few years were the hardest. Sarah sent me divorce papers, which I signed. She remarried 2 years later to a man named Tom, a manager at a tech company. My parents sent pictures of the girls occasionally, always with a short note saying they were doing well, but that it was too confusing for them to visit me. Marcus never wrote or visited once. I became a ghost to my own family. Erased. Forgotten. But I didn't forget. I couldn't. Every night in my cell, I went over everything again and again. The evidence, the timeline, the people who had access. Someone had done this to me. Someone had meticulously destroyed my life. But who? And why? The answer finally came on a Tuesday morning, 15 years after that first terrible Tuesday. The day of my release. I walked out of FCI Sheridan at 6:47 a.m. on a cold October morning, carrying a small bag with my belongings and wearing clothes that were hopelessly out of style. I was 47 years old. I'd gone into prison at 32. I'd missed Emma's entire adolescence, she was 22 now. Lily was 20. They were adults. Strangers. Janet Miller, my old public defender, was waiting for me in the parking lot. I was surprised to see her. We'd lost touch after the first few years. Daniel, she greeted me, her face grim. We need to talk. Get in the car. Something in her tone made my stomach clench. I climbed into her beat-up Honda Civic, and she pulled out of the parking lot quickly, checking her mirrors like she was afraid of being followed. "What's going on?" I asked. She handed me a thick manila envelope. "3 months ago, I got a call from a woman named Patricia Chen. She said she had information about your case." I almost hung up. I get crank calls from conspiracy theorists all the time. But something made me listen. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were documents. Bank statements, emails, photographs, and a letter written in shaky handwriting. Patricia Chen was a bookkeeper at a small accounting firm that your brother Marcus used for his personal finances, Janet continued as I began to read. "She's dying of cancer. Stage 4. She has maybe 3 months left. And apparently, she's been carrying a secret that's been eating her alive." The letter was addressed to me. "Mr. Morrison. You don't know me, but I've known about you for 15 years. I've watched your case, followed every appeal, and carried the weight of what I know like a stone around my neck. I told myself it wasn't my business, that I couldn't afford to lose my job, that maybe I was wrong about what I saw. But I'm dying now, and I can't face my maker with this on my conscience. Your brother did it. Marcus Morrison stole that money. I helped him hide it, though I didn't know at the time that he was framing you. I thought it was tax avoidance, maybe some shady business dealings. I didn't know he was sending his own brother to prison until I saw the news coverage of your trial. I've included copies of the real financial records, the ones Marcus had me create showing the actual flow of money. I've included emails where he explicitly discusses setting up the accounts to mirror your patterns. I've included photographs of documents he had me forge with your signature. He was practicing getting it perfect. I have a recording of a conversation where he discusses his plans with someone else, someone whose voice I didn't recognize. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was a coward. I let you rot in prison because I was afraid of losing my job, of being implicated, of dealing with a man as ruthless as your brother proved to be. I hope these documents are enough to prove your innocence. I hope you can forgive me, though I don't deserve it. Patricia Chen." I couldn't breathe. My hands shook so badly I dropped the papers. Marcus. My brother. The person who had stood beside my father in court, his hand on Dad's shoulder in comfort. The person who had testified about my strange behavior. Marcus had destroyed my life. Why? I whispered. Why would he do this? Janet pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and turned to face me. Keep reading. The next section is an email Patricia found. I forced myself to pick up the papers again. The email was dated 2 months before I was arrested, from Marcus to someone named D. Reynolds. D. Everything is in place. Daniel's too trusting to see it coming. Once he's out of the way, I'll be the natural choice to take over as CEO when Dad retires. Sarah's already on board. She's been complaining about Daniel's lack of ambition 4 months. She thinks she's going to be married to the CEO of Morrison and Sons, living in a mansion in Medina. She doesn't know that once I'm in charge, I'll phase out Dad, restructure everything, and sell the company to Consolidated. We'll both walk away with millions. The gambling angle is perfect. Creates reasonable doubt about where the money went, makes Daniel look unstable. Nobody suspects the responsible brother. 3 months, tops, until this is all over and we get what we deserve. I had to read it 3 times before the words made sense. Sarah. My wife had been in on it. Sarah, who I'd loved since I was 16 years old, who I'd built a life with, who I'd given everything to. She had helped frame me for a crime I didn't commit. There's more, Janet said quietly. Patricia recorded a phone conversation between Marcus and Sarah about a month after your sentencing. She thought it might be insurance in case they ever turned on her. I've listened to it. Daniel, I'm warning you, it's bad. She handed me a small digital recorder. I pressed play with numb fingers. Marcus's voice came through, tinny but clear, we did it. The bastard bought every word. 15 years. 15 years, Sarah. Sarah's laugh. I would have known that laugh anywhere. I know. God, I know. I almost felt bad when he looked at me in court with those puppy dog eyes. Almost. Please. You've been done with him for years. Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Play It Safe. Never would have amounted to anything. I just wish Dad would retire already. How long are we supposed to wait? Not long. He's talking about stepping down in the next year. And with Daniel gone, who else is there? The company's practically mine already. Then we make our move with Consolidated, collect our payout, and I can finally divorce Jessica. We can be together properly. A pause. You promise? You'll leave her? Of course. Jessica's just cover. You're the one I want. You always have been. We make a good team, Sarah. We pulled off the impossible, framed Daniel so perfectly that even his own mother thinks he's guilty. Their laughter together made me vomit. I opened the car door just in time, retching into the parking lot until there was nothing left in my stomach. Janet waited patiently, handing me napkins and a bottle of water when I was done. There's more documentation, she said. Patricia was very thorough. She has Marcus's real financial records, showing he bought a vacation home in Hawaii under a shell company. She has evidence that he and Sarah have been having an affair since at least 2 years before your arrest. She has recordings of 3 more conversations where they discuss the frame-up. And she has testimony that she's willing to give, even though she's dying. She wants to make this right. I couldn't speak. 15 years. 15 years of my life, stolen. My daughter's childhood's gone. My reputation, destroyed. My father died believing I was a thief. He'd passed away from a heart attack 7 years into my sentence, and I hadn't even been allowed to attend the funeral. We are filing for exoneration immediately, Janet continued. With this evidence, it's a slam dunk. Marcus will be arrested, probably today. Sarah will likely face conspiracy charges. You'll be cleared, Daniel. Completely and totally cleared. My father, I managed to say. My father died thinking I betrayed him. Janet's eyes filled with tears. I know. I'm so sorry. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Patricia Chen's evidence was even more damning than Janet had initially revealed. The FBI got involved. Marcus was arrested at the Morrison & Sons office, which he now ran as CEO. Sarah was picked up at her home, the home she shared with Tom, who apparently had no idea his wife had helped frame her first husband and was having an ongoing affair with his brother-in-law. The news media went insane. Man framed by brother and wife freed after 15 years was the headline on every news channel. Reporters camped outside the modest apartment Janet had helped me rent. My face was everywhere. I avoided it all. I couldn't face the cameras, the questions, the fake sympathy. I just wanted to see my daughters. Emma and Lily agreed to meet me at a neutral location, a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. Janet came with me for support. I arrived early and sat at a corner table, my hands shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. They walked in together, and I almost didn't recognize them. Emma was tall and willowy, with her mother's blonde hair and my green eyes. Lily was shorter, darker, more serious-looking. They were beautiful. They were strangers. They sat down across from me, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. "Hi," I finally managed. "Thank you for coming." "We saw the news," Emma said. Her voice was cautious, guarded. Our whole lives, we've been told you were a criminal. That you stole from the family. And now we find out our mother helped frame you, Lily finished, her voice bitter. That our uncle is a monster. That we've been lied to for our entire lives. I'm so sorry, I said, and my voice broke. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from this. I'm sorry for all of it. It's not your fault, Emma said, and tears started streaming down her face. God, Dad, it's not your fault. You were the victim. We should be apologizing to you. We believed them. We believed you were guilty. You were children, I said. You believed what the adults in your life told you. That's not your fault. Lily was crying too now. Mom's been arrested. They are saying she might get 10 years. Uncle Marcus might get 25. And Grandma? She paused. Grandma's at home. She's been in shock since the news broke. She wants to see you, but she's afraid you hate her. My mother. She believed the worst of me, had supported Sarah, had cut me out of her life. But she'd also lost her husband and now learned that her remaining son was a monster. I don't hate her, I said quietly. I don't hate any of you. I'm sad. I'm sad for all the time we lost. All the moments I missed. I can't get that back. No amount of justice or exoneration can give me back your childhoods. We talked for 3 hours that day. They told me about their lives. Emma was in graduate school studying psychology, Lily was working as a graphic designer. They told me about their stepfather Tom, who they said was a good man who'd been as shocked as anyone by the revelations. They told me about growing up, about the questions they'd had, about the confusion and pain of having an imprisoned father. And I told them the truth about everything. About the frame-up, about the evidence, about the 15 years in prison. About the nights I'd spent looking at their pictures. About the letters I'd written that I never sent because I didn't want to confuse them. About how I'd never stopped loving them even when I thought they'd forgotten about me. By the end, we were all crying, but it was a different kind of crying. A cleansing kind. Can we start over? Emma asked. Can we get to know you? Really know you? I would like nothing more, I said. The legal proceedings took another year. Marcus went to trial and was convicted of embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, and a dozen other charges. He got 28 years, ironically, more time than I'd been sentenced to. Patricia Chen passed away 2 months after my release, but not before testifying in a deposition that was used at trial. Her courage in coming forward, even facing her own death, made all the difference. I visited her in hospice the week before she died, and I held her hand and told her I forgave her. She cried, and so did I. The State Compensation Board awarded me $50,000 for each year of wrongful imprisonment, $750,000 total. It seemed like a lot until I realized it was only $50,000 per year for 15 years of my life. Still, it was enough to start over. Morrison & Sons Construction no longer exists. After Marcus's arrest and conviction, the company collapsed. The few remaining contracts were bought out by competitors. My father's legacy, my grandfather's legacy, was destroyed. That might be the thing I'm most bitter about, not just what Marcus did to me, but what he did to everything our family had built. But I'm building something new now. Emma, Lily, and I started a small non-profit called Second Chances, helping exonerated prisoners reintegrate into society. We help with job placement, housing, mental health services, and legal support. We've helped 23 people in the last 2 years, and the work is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. My relationship with my mother is complicated. She apologized, over and over, crying until she made herself sick. I told her I forgave her, and I meant it, but there's a distance between us now that might never fully heal. She believed her son was a criminal for 15 years. That belief, that lack of faith, left scars on both of us. I'm in therapy twice a week. Prison changes you, and being wrongfully imprisoned adds layers of trauma that I'm still working through. I have nightmares. I have trust issues. I struggle with anger and resentment that bubbles up at unexpected moments. But I'm working on it, and my daughters are patient with me, which is more than I deserve. I'm 50 years old now. I spent 15 years of my life in a cage for a crime I didn't commit, framed by the two people who were supposed to love me most. I lost my father, my youth, my daughters' childhoods, and nearly my sanity. But I survived. I survived, and I came out the other side determined to make sure that what happened to me happens to as few other people as possible. The justice system failed me spectacularly, but I refuse to let that failure define the rest of my life. Marcus writes me sometimes from prison. Long, rambling letters full of excuses and justifications and half-hearted apologies. He claims he was under financial pressure, that Sarah manipulated him, that he never meant for it to go as far as it did. I don't read them anymore. I have them forwarded directly to my therapist, who keeps them in case they are ever needed for legal purposes, but I don't need to read my brother's lies. I spent 15 years paying for his crimes. I'm done carrying his burden. Sarah has never apologized, never reached out. According to Emma and Lily, she maintains to this day that she was somehow also a victim, that Marcus manipulated her too. It's easier for her to believe that than to face what she really is, a woman who betrayed her husband, destroyed her family, and stole her daughter's father from them out of greed and ambition. The hardest part isn't the anger, or the bitterness, or even the lost years. The hardest part is trust. How do you trust anyone after the people closest to you proved capable of such betrayal? My own brother. My own wife. They looked me in the eye, smiled, and destroyed me without a second thought. But I'm learning, slowly, that not everyone is like them. Janet Miller became a true friend, she believed in me when no one else did. Patricia Chen, a stranger, found the courage to do the right thing even at the end of her life. I'm not going to lie and say everything is perfect now, or that justice healed all wounds. I still wake up sometimes in a panic, convinced I'm back in my cell. I still have days where the anger at what was stolen from me feels overwhelming. I still grieve for the father-daughter dances I missed, the graduations I wasn't there for, the bedtime stories I never got to read. But I also have days filled with joy now. Emma's wedding next month, where I'll walk her down the aisle. Lily's art show last week, where I got to see her incredible work displayed in a real gallery. Sunday dinners with my daughters and my mother, where we are slowly rebuilding what was broken. The thank you letters from people's second chances has helped, telling us we changed their lives. The day I walked out of prison, Janet handed me Patricia's letter and said the truth had finally come out. But the truth is complex. Yes, the truth about my innocence came out. But I also learned the truth about betrayal, about the capacity for evil in people you love, about the failures of our justice system, and about the incredible resilience of the human spirit. I learned that families aren't always defined by blood. Sometimes the people who prove to be your real family are a public defender who believed in you, a dying bookkeeper who found her conscience, and daughters brave enough to question everything they'd been taught. I learned that justice delayed is still justice, even if it can never fully compensate for what was lost. And I learned that even after the worst betrayal imaginable, even after losing 15 years to a cage, it's still possible to find meaning, purpose, and even happiness on the other side. My name is Daniel Morrison. I'm 50 years old. I spent 15 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit, framed by my own family. The truth came out the day I was released, and my life hasn't been the same since. But I'm still here. I'm still fighting. And I'm still building a life worth living, one day at a time. That's all any of us can do. If this story moved you, if it made you think about justice, family, betrayal, or resilience, I would be incredibly grateful if you could subscribe to this channel. We share stories like this one, stories about the human experience in all its complexity, about people facing impossible situations, and finding the strength to survive, and even thrive. Your subscription helps us continue creating content that matters, that makes you think, that reminds you of the incredible strength of the human spirit. We have so many more stories to share, stories of survival, of justice, of people overcoming the unimaginable. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a story, and if you want to support the channel further, consider becoming a member or checking out our Patreon. Every subscription, every like, every comment helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. And if you've been through something similar, if you've been wrongfully accused, betrayed by family, or had to rebuild your life from nothing, please share your story in the comments. You're not alone. There's a whole community here of people who understand, who've been through their own versions of hell, and come out the other side. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening to Daniel's story, and thank you for being part of this community. We'll see you in the next video with another incredible story of human resilience, courage, and the search for truth and justice. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear a story about surviving the impossible, and subscribe for more content just like this. Stories matter. Your story matters. And together, we can create a community where truth and justice aren't just concepts, but realities we fight for every single day. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and remember, the true